All right, today we're jumping right into a verse that has sparked debate for literally centuries. Revelation chapter 20, verse 4. We're talking about a vision of thrones, judgment, and this thousand-year reign that has completely fascinated people. So let's decode this thing.
Just listen to that language. And I saw thrones, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. It is epic, it's mysterious, and wow, is it powerful. Now, for a lot of people, this paints a clear picture of some kingdom way off in the distant future. But what if that's not what it's about at all?
What if this whole vision isn't a sneak peek of the future, but actually a description of a spiritual reality that kicked off the moment Jesus died on the cross? I mean, that's the core idea we're exploring today, and it's a perspective that honestly changes everything. Okay, so let's start with the very first thing John sees in his vision: thrones. Right away, that screams authority, honor, a place of importance. But the real question is, who exactly is sitting on them? Well, according to this interpretation, it's not believers from the future. It's the faithful from the Old Testament, all the saints and martyrs who lived and died believing in the promise of a Messiah who is still to come. You see, them sitting on thrones isn't about a future promotion. No, it's the fulfillment of their faith, the reward that became a reality the second Jesus declared, "It is finished." So the verse goes on to say, judgment was given unto them. And this is where we really got to slow down, because what we usually think of when we hear the word judgment, well, that might not be what's going on here.
I mean, let's be honest. When you and I hear judgment, our minds immediately go to a courtroom, a gavel coming down, punishment, right? But what if, in this context for these faithful people, judgment actually means the complete opposite?
The whole argument here is that for these saints, judgment is vindication. It's not a trial to see if they're worthy. It's a public declaration that they are righteous. It's a confirmation of the faith they held their entire lives.
And hey, this isn't just a random new idea. It's right there in the original language. The Greek word used is krima. And yeah, it can mean a sentence, but its broader meaning is a decision, a ruling, a declaration. It's the official recognition of a reality that's already true. And you know what? This idea pops up way back in the Old Testament too. The prophet Daniel wrote that judgment would be given to the saints and that it was directly tied to them taking possession of the kingdom. So it's a judgment of empowerment, not one of punishment. And check out the timing here. This is absolutely crucial. They are already sitting on thrones, in a position of honor, before this judgment is given. See, the judgment doesn't decide their status. It just announces it to everyone. It's their moment of vindication.
Okay, so the vision gets wider. John sees another group, the souls of them that were beheaded. So who are these people?
This is talking about everyone who paid the ultimate price for what they believed, the martyrs, the prophets who suffered for speaking God's word. But it also includes anyone who refused to bow down, who rejected the corrupt and idolatrous systems of their day, symbolized here as the beast and his mark. Their unwavering faithfulness is finally being honored. And that brings us to what is really the climax of the verse. And they lived. This little phrase is the core of what's called the first resurrection. And believe me, its meaning is one of the most debated topics out there.
So, what does it actually mean that they lived? Is John describing a literal physical scene where bodies are coming back from the dead? Or is he witnessing something much, much deeper, a spiritual reality that goes way beyond physical life and death?
Let's go back to the Greek. The word is ezeson, and this interpretation connects it not to some future event, but to that New Testament idea of being spiritually made alive with Christ. It's a spiritual resurrection from a state of death into a brand new kind of life that begins with faith.
The book of Hebrews actually gives us a really fascinating piece of this puzzle. It says that all those Old Testament heroes of faith, they died without receiving the ultimate promise. And you have to ask why. Well, it's because God's master plan was to bring everyone, all believers from before and after the cross, to completion together at the same time.
So here's how it all connects. First, you have the Old Testament saints. They lived and died in faith waiting for the Messiah. But they didn't get to see the promise fulfilled. Then, boom, you have the cross. This is the one single event that fulfilled that promise for everybody, past, present, and future, making all believers perfect together.
And that brings us to the most famous, and maybe most confusing, part of the whole verse, that these saints reigned with Christ 1,000 years. What on earth does this millennium represent?
Okay, so you basically have two main ways of looking at this. The popular view is a literal future 1,000-year reign of Christ, like a political kingdom here on earth.
But the view we're exploring sees it symbolically. The 1,000 years isn't a countdown clock, it represents the entire gospel age, the complete and perfect era of Christ's spiritual reign through his people, which started at the cross. And you know, this idea of numbers being symbolic has a ton of scriptural support. The Apostle Peter even reminds us, hey, don't forget that God's perspective on time is not like ours at all. To him, a day can be like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years can be like a day. That really opens the door to seeing this number as a symbol of divine perfection, not a literal calendar entry.
So let's put all the pieces together into one big picture. In this view, the thrones and the judgment, that's the vindication and honor for all the faithful. The souls of the martyrs, that's all the faithful whose suffering is finally rewarded. The phrase, they lived, that signifies a spiritual resurrection into real life with Christ. And that 1,000 years, it's a symbolic number for the entire gospel age, the reign that started the moment the cross went up.
So what's the big takeaway here? If this interpretation holds up, if this reign, this resurrection, and this judgment are all spiritual realities that are happening right now, in the present, how does that change things for us? Well, it shifts our entire focus from just waiting around for a future kingdom to actively participating in one that is already here. Now that is something to think about.